Chapter 14 of The Great Cosmic Mother, the mother of wild animals and the dance. Commenting on the almost total blindness of male historians vis-a-vis the obvious female orientation of the Upper Paleolithic, William Irwin Thompson writes, "Because we have separated humanity from nature, subject from object, values from analysis, knowledge from myth, and universities from the universe, it is enormously difficult for anyone but a poet or a mystic to understand what is going on in the holistic and mythopoetic thought of the Ice Age humanity. The very language we use to discuss the past speaks of tools, hunters, and men, when every statue and painting we discover cries out to us that this Ice Age humanity was a culture of art, the love of animals, and women. Gathering is as important as hunting, but only hunting is discussed. Storytelling is discussed, but the storyteller is a hunter rather than an old priestess of the moon. Initiation is imagined, but the initiate is not the young girl in Menarche about to be wed to the moon, but a young man about to become a great hunter. What the historians leave blank, our imaginations can fill in, with bright pictures like those covering the sacred cave walls. We know that women's religious rights were never separable from the totality of art, magic, and social and physical realities. The matrifocal group organized its power into a religious and cultural human expression through the medium of art. Art was the tool of the connection, the manifest vision expressing experience of a single life-giving principle conserved in the changeless otherness, the changeless other world of the deep caves, where there is a perpetual darkness and time becomes spatial, resonant, and static. In such a standing silence as within a giant living skull, the dream images make themselves known. The great goddess was the mother of wild animals. The inner recesses and womb walls of the caverns were alive with magic pictures of her beasts. She was an animal, all the animals. In many of the early images, she wears an animal mask. As in ancient Chinese Taoism, so in Western pagan religions, the female principle was the transforming animal, the energy of metamorphosis and hence evolution. The brilliant rush of European animal imagery, from Cro-Magnon through Celtic, Nordic, and Teutonic art, and incorporated into medieval bestiaries and illuminated manuscripts, expressed this primal dynamic vision of evolutionary energy as a surge of spirit into multitudinous forms. The goddess kept her various animal shapes for thousands of years, among them the doe, the owl, the hare, the vulture, the pig, the cow, the wild mare, the lioness, the crow, the crane, the salmon, the jackal, the hermaphroditic snail, the serpent, the wren, the butterfly, and the chrysalis, the spider. Early human attitude towards animals was totemistic. Totem means related through the mother. The blood clan solidarity was identified with some specific plant or animal. Through the totem, the life of the human group and ongoing life of nature were made inseparable. This is the meaning of sacrament, the absorption by humans of the non-human, or cosmic flow of forms. The secret spirit lives in and through the multitude of plant and animal forms, which the goddess can assume at will. This means that any tree or beast, bird or fish or insect is symbolically potentially her, and must be related to with magic and respect. Individual members of a species die, but the group form remains, is permanent, is one of the Great Mother's ideal forms. This is the primal concept of reincarnation. Later European pagans believed in individual soul reincarnation through many forms, animal and human and demonic, as the mechanism of biological as well as spiritual evolution. The animism of primal peoples has been called childish, when in fact it is a profound experiential perception of the evolutionary relation between all life forms as manifestations of the original one, the first cell from which all life multiplied, the original cosmic egg. When the human survival depends on such a sensitive rapport with the environment, as it always has and always will, such a conception is not infantile but crucial. Human survival does indeed depend upon a sacramental relation to nature. Now that this relation has been betrayed and destroyed, we know how important it was and is. A sacramental bond between our earliest human ancestors and the natural world was the primary factor in our evolution, not simply as a physical species, but as conscious beings. For this bonding set up a resonance in which all art, all religious ritual, all magic, alchemic science, all spiritual striving for illumination was born. As primal people have always experienced it, when you look and listen to nature, something appears, something always speaks. Animism is still a valid relationship. If modern man neither sees nor hears, the fault is in his dead sensorium. In primitive belief, no animal can be killed against its wish. When a member of a species is struck down, the one is wounded. Therefore, the hunter must fast and pray to the animal spirit before the hunt, not simply to ask its pardon, but to gain its assent to being killed. The hunted animal is seen to give itself to the hunter as human food, while its spirit returns to the group form. Because men did all the large game hunting and felt themselves to be tracking and slaying brother and sister animals, magic children like themselves of Mother Earth, we know they felt guilt and sought its resolution. After spilling of blood, one must restore harmony with the dead animal and with the mother of animals, as its soul persists through the multiplicity of lives and deaths. Cave paintings from the Upper Paleolithic show stick figure male hunters or entranced shamans alongside beautifully rendered bison and other game animals. The hunter's or shaman's spear may be shown juxtaposed with the vulvas of female animals. They were seeing the animal's wound as a magic vulva of the goddess, trying to establish a union or symbolic resolution within the violence of killing. A penis to vulva, which bleeds and heals itself, so spear to wound. Rock carvings and paintings found in North Africa, identical in theme to the European cave paintings, make this analogy between penis and arrow. Goddess's vulva and animal wound, the circular lines returning the energy in a vulva to vulva cycle. In all these Stone Age depictions of the hunt, there is not one image of aggressive or bloodthirsty hunters engaged in wanton slaughter. There are only images of prayerful petition and worshipful observation. As Thompson points out, these Paleolithic paintings of vulvas as magic wounds that heal themselves or give birth to new life continue as symbolic images through Western religious history. Medieval paintings show Christ exposing his wound from which blood and water flowed during the crucifixion as from a uterus in childbirth. The labial wound in the side of Christ is an expression that the male shaman, to have magical power, must take on the power of woman. The magical labial wound is a seal of the resurrection and an expression of the myth of external reoccurrence. From Christ to the Fisher King to the Grail legends, the man suffering from a magical wound is no ordinary man. He is the man who has transcended the duality of sexuality, the man with the vulva, the shamanistic androgen. These pagan meanings were kept alive, not in Orthodox Christianity certainly, but in the Gnostic tradition, which recognized magic, bisexuality, the alchemical androgen, the necessity of the male to experience his female wound. The Grail legend has been traced back to Neolithic Near Eastern goddess religion, but in fact goes back much further to the sacred Cro-Magnon caves, the Stone Age hunter's attempt to resolve bloodletting guilt symbolically and ecstatically through the fusion of his sex spirit with the magic vulva wound of the mother goddess. Ritual cannibalism began with the same symbolic desire, not solely to propitiate, but to participate in the magic life-death-birth process. Among primal people, the totemic animal is sometimes eaten as a sacrament by the group, or it is totally avoided as a group taboo. Either way, human hunger, killing, and eating are felt as unbalancing acts, which must be reharmonized through sacramental rites. Ritual cannibalism doubtless began with shared eating of the totem animal, a taking of the animal's life force by the group, to participate in its death, in its lifeblood, and to partake in the eternal rebirth in the mother. What is occurred in the world, ritual cannibalism like hunting, was predominantly or exclusively a male activity. We can see it in early man's desire not to separate himself and to reestablish magic bonds with the mother after spilling of her blood. This sacred cannibalism is still practiced symbolically in the Christian communion. Another mode of group intoxication, of ecstatic rebalancing, is the dance. Sacred circles made with stones are found deep in the Paleolithic caves, and in them traces of human feet that danced around and around. Cave paintings show the shaman dancing in animal skins and antler headdresses. The footmarks of the caves reveal generations of ritual dancing by all, women, men, children. Dancing to and with the spirits of the animals is most ancient human ceremony that we know. Mass dances, like dancing the maze, were a deliberate means of approach to the biomystical animal world and to the great mother within and beyond all forms. Pantomimic dance is of the essence of each and every mystery function. In Themis, Jane Ellen Harrison describes how the primal dancing group projects around its aroused energies and outward into the creation of a god. Beginning with mimetic rites, wearing animal masks, feathers, horns, and claws, dancing to a common rhythm, common excitement, members of the group became emotionally supercharged and one. Initially, no God concept is involved, but the collective emotion is overwhelmingly felt as something more than the experience of the individual, as something dominant and external. Dithyram meant originally song of birth. The ecstatic choric dance literally gave birth to the god. Group emotional energy becomes the raw material of the godhead. In time, a leader of the dance is slowly differentiated. The dancers become the audience, worshipers of something beyond. Prayer and sacrifice reveals that severance is complete. The community of emotion ceases, restructured into hierarchic observance, and the primal chorus loses all sense of memory that the God is themselves. We forget the God is always ourselves. Harrison's description shows the social and sheer biological origins of religion, the creation of divinity, not from private prayer or individual moral abstraction, but from its chthonic roots in physical, collective, and ecstatic energies. Like many early 20th century students of ancient mythology, however, Harrison's thought reveals a Freudian influence, a belief the creation of God is only a one-way process. Like Freud, Harrison sourced human cultural expression, art, dance, religion, in the unsatisfied desire, and seemed to agree that all experience of the sacred was reducible to psychological projection. Witness the analytic urge to demystify the mystery. The Freudian school knew no quantum physics or energies beyond the human. But there are other dimensions than the spatially temporally tangible, even though the linear mind is not structured to perceive them. Spiritual or magical experience is an impingement of these other dimensions or force fields into our ordinary rational reality. A dancing group can project its entranced emotion into Godhead. Through a trance and rhythmic opening of psychic channels, it can also interject the Godhead, pulling down transhuman powers. Both directions of this process can really occur simultaneously. The group generates and renews the power. The power generates and renews the group. The spiraling process gives birth in both directions. Later, priestly ideas that the gods demand constant human supplication, obedience, and abasement are wrong and exploitative, but they derive from this genuine primordial perception of an energy exchange between humans and transhuman powers, a vibratory field communication that must go both ways for the connection to work. Chimpanzees do rain dances for no logical reason other than to reconnect their animal energies with transhuman energies of rain, thunder, and lightning, the original chemical dance of life. And the acrophal Jesus says, "The whole world on high hath part in our dancing, and who danceth not knoweth what cometh to pass." This idea is incorporated in the Gnostic round dance, but its origins are not in Christianity by any means. In the earliest pagan Paleolithic sacred cave dances, even beyond that, in the dances of chimpanzees, and beyond that, in the first circling dances of molecules, of atoms, of quarks around the cosmic spiral. The sacred dance takes us beyond the god of morality and back to the goddess of ecstasy, beyond obedience to social hierarchy and back to the original communion with sheer evolutionary energy. That is why such Gnostic texts were branded acrophal, and why the medieval Gnostics were persecuted and burned at the stake by the Orthodox Church, because they spoke a pagan and primordial truth, old as the universe, who is the first dancer. One of the earliest images we know is of the mother of the wild animals, and the dance is the Venus of Locelle, a bas relief from a cave in the Dordogne Valley, France, dating circa 19,000 BC. This icon shows the Great Mother standing with the bison horn upheld in her right hand. The horn is a lunar crescent, and the relief is painted with red ochre, the magic color of menstruation and birth. Such a figure presided over the mass shamanic dances and the circle dances of communion with all animals, all life, in which blood, woman, moon, bison, horn, birth, magic, the cycle of life, are all in continuous resonance or harmony of sacred energies. This Locelle Great Mother holding the lunar horn became the Virgin and the unicorn, one horn, of medieval legend. The marvelous tapestries of the Middle Ages, all woven by women, frequently tell the story of the unicorn who may be touched and tamed only by a chaste virgin. As Thompson notes, the unicorn is a lunar symbol of the ancient religion of Europe, the Great Mother religion, and the ritual drama of the macho hunter chasing and slaying this magic beast represents a trace memory of the shift of the moon-worshipping matrifocal European pagan society to the patriarchal sun worship of the Roman Empire and the Christian Church. Such traces of the Paleolithic hunt goddess and her magic relation to all beasts can be found throughout the European folklore, art, alchemy, witchcraft, and other heresies. It can also be found throughout the world, Asia, Africa, the Americas. They are found everywhere human beings are found because they represent our original heart and mind. Among the Stone Age carved paintings are images of great women with upraised arms, some with their arms supported by smaller male figures on either side. Legendarily, sacred women stood in this position during the hunt, acting as receivers of cosmic energy. Among the African Stone Age cliff paintings found by Mary Leakey in central Tanzania, the hunt dancers are almost always women who move their bodies in shapes and gestures of the animals. Among the Kalahari Bushmen today, a shaman woman performs a special invocation dance on the dawn of the hunt day, invoking the protective dawn star, Venus, who is called the hunter, and the communing with the spirits of the animals who will voluntarily die to feed humans. Among these Kalahari Aboriginals, the Milky Way was created by a young girl in Monarch who, feeling lonely, threw the ashes of her fire into the night sky to create a friendly light for her people. The African Hottentots sing and chant to the rain spirit, who is a pregnant moon goddess called Goro. Thou who has painted thy body red, thou does not drop the menses. Before their invocation dance, they paint their bodies red with ochre, which is called gorod, after her blood red color. Australian Aboriginals pour blood over their sacred stones, ritually paint themselves red after the dances, saying the paint is really women's menstrual blood. When we think of the 21,000-year-old Venus of Locelle, stained with the red ochre and holding up the hunter's lunar crescent horn in the sacred cave, we know that all of these same rites, images, and analogies mean and where they come from. They come from our original selves as children of the Great Mother, as sisters and brothers of all her magic animals. The rites, icons, and dances conceive the earth as the body of the mother and try to restore the harmony lost when she is wounded. They aim to relate the beast's wounds to her magic vulva, which bleeds with the moon and heals itself again and again. In this way, the species spirits of the animals may be renewed through rebirth after the killing of individual members. Surely, in these dances and rituals, we see the world's meaning of all religious symbolism, but more clearly and beautifully because closer to the source. Western history does not show us any evolution towards greater spirit, but meaning greater culture. The Western Roman Christian contribution to the world, when we look at it, has been almost entirely in the area of technology and of analytical intellect, combined with a notorious spiritual and cultural alienation, perhaps the loneliest individuals the planet has ever seen. What there still is of spirit, of poetry, of coherent meaning, of symbolic truth in the world did not come from us. It was there in the beginning among our Stone Age ancestors. Their vision, their cosmology, their intuitive truth and sacred analogies run like bright red threads through the tapestry of Western history. Whatever is still alive and vibrating in patriarchal religions, especially Christianity, when traced to its source, is found to be one of those bloody living fibers retained or stolen from the original Paleolithic cosmology, woven by these Ice Age people out of their primal pagan experience of the Great Mother and her magic world. What has followed them in the mythic, religious, spiritual, and psychic realms, at least, has been no great advance, but a devolution, a corruption, a narrowing and hardening, an atrophy of vision and heart. Our Stone Age ancestors would have no trouble understanding the words of Smohala, a Nez Perce who sang the primal truth to the white man's world of 19th century business and resource development oriented America. My young men shall never work. Men who work cannot dream, and wisdom comes in dreams. You ask me to plow the ground. Shall I take a knife and tear my mother's breast? Then when I die, she will not take me to her bosom to rest. You ask me to dig for stone. Shall I dig under her skin for bones? Then when I die, I cannot enter her body and be born again. You ask me to cut grass and make hay and sell it and be rich like the white man. But how can I cut off my mother's hair? It is bad law and my people cannot obey it. I want my people to stay with me here. All the dead humans will come to life again. We must wait here in the house of our ancestors and be ready to meet in the body of our mother.